warm welcome to TV Africa News and thank you for always joining us. This is Africa Today. My name is Najma Lima, but first are the headlines. Museveni, Russian ambassador to Uganda, Vladlen Semivoros, meet. Tortured Kamwenge mayor awarded shillings 1.4 billion in compensation. Sudan welcomes a military base agreement with Russia in the Red Sea. In sports, KCCA drop more points after Express draw. Welcome once again. Now the news in detail. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has met with the Russian ambassador to Uganda, Vladlen Semivoros, according to information from State House, and the two discussed issues of mutual interest. We have more.
The development comes a few hours after Uganda, together with 34 other countries, abstained from participating in a voting process that sought to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine at the United Nations. In an emergency session at the UN's General Assembly, 141 of the 193 member states voted for the resolution to condemn Russia, whereas 5 voted against the resolution. Uganda's position has remained neutral ever since the invasion. President Museveni has not expressed himself on the matter, and neither has the Ministry of Foreign Affairs officially done so. Uganda is a great beneficiary of Russia's support, so are the many other African states who have been caught in the middle of the crossfire between the West and the Balkan states. The relations between Uganda and Russia have in the past years blossomed, as the East African country's allegiance is seen by many as moving from the West towards Russia and China. In 2019, President Museveni was among the few African leaders who were invited for the first ever Russia-African summit in the Russian coastal city of Sochi. Speaking at the sidelines of the summit, Museveni hailed Russia for always supporting the development of Uganda in terms of defense and security and Africa at large.
The Ministry of Health, a Permanent Secretary, Dr. Dana Atwini, has introduced Mulago Hospital Executive Director, Dr. Byaruhanga Baterana, with immediate effect.
Dr. Baterana was on Tuesday arrested, together with 6 other officials from Mulago Hospital by the State House Health Monitoring Unit, to aid in the ongoing investigation into 28.8 billion shillings allegedly spent by the National Referral Hospital but unaccounted for. However, in a March 2, 2022 letter, Dr. Atwine informed Baterana that owing to the ongoing investigations into abuse of office, embezzlement, causing financial loss and fraudulent false accounting, it is prudent he steps aside. Dr. Atwine said in the letter that Dr. Baterana will receive half pay until charges against him have been cleared pursuant to Section FS and FR of the Public Service Standing Orders 2021. Accordingly, Dr. Baterana has been asked to hand over office to his deputy, Dr. Rosemary Byanyima, but also to keep away from Mulago Hospital until advised otherwise. The embattled Mulago Hospital Executive Director has also been blocked from leaving the country without written permission. The development comes a few hours after Baterana, who had been detained at Jinja Road Police Station, was released on police bond, but his passport was confiscated. The State House Health Monitoring Unit Director, Dr. Warren Namara, told journalists on Wednesday that following complaints by some members of the public in April last year, they started investigation into the procurement processes, drugs, human resource management and finances at the hospital, leading to a number of queries that culminated into Baterana's arrest.
The Kamwenge town mayor Godfrey Byamukama, who was in 2017 tortured by police after being accused of participation in the gruesome murder of AIGP Andrew Felix Kawesi, was awarded shillings 1.4 billion in compensation for the torture. We have more on this report. Byamukama, who had come to Kampala for his private business, was arrested by operatives of the police flying squad, bundled into a waiting drone van and detained at Nalfenya police station, which by then had been christened as a torture chamber due to accounts by a number of suspects detained at the facility. Grisly images that made rounds on social media the following days that showed torture marks all over the body of the Kamwenge mayor, attracting condemnation from members of public. Whereas 4 police officers, including ASP Patrick Mlamira, DASP Fred Tumuhaire, Habib Roma and Ben Odeke were arraigned before the Buganda Road Chief Magistrate Court and charged with torture. They were later released on bail. Speaking during a workshop for regional police commanders at police headquarters on Thursday, Police Director in charge of Human Rights and Legal Services, AIGP Erasmus Twaruhuka, said government was sued for violating Byamukama's rights in a civil suit, adding that having realized there was so much evidence against them, the matter was settled out of court by paying shillings 1.4 billion as compensation. The police director, however, warned that there are many cases that can be mitigated against by police, adding that this can be done when officers stick to what the Police Act and the Constitution provide. Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, The Bright to Know. Deputy Chairman of Sudan Sovereignty Council, General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo Hemedti, reported that he discussed cooperation with Russian officials on national security and political issues. Hemedti held a press conference at Khartoum Airport after his 8-day visit to the Russian capital, Moscow.
Hemedti said that meetings were held with many officials in Russia and that they discussed all issues between the two countries, especially politics and economy, during the visit, and that the meetings were productive. Hemedti stated that they discussed the issues of economy and cooperation between the two countries with Russian Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, mentioning that he also met with Russian Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev. Hemedti said that they discussed the issue of national security in Russia and Sudan in the field of experience sharing, joint cooperation, fight against terrorism, and education. Hemedti also said the following about the naval base that Russia wants to establish in the city of Port Sudan in the Red Sea, noting that he and his delegation also visited Egypt and met with Egyptian intelligence chief Abbas Kamil. Hemedti stated that the political situation in Sudan was discussed during the meeting and that the Egyptian side called for the crisis in Sudan to be resolved through dialogue. Sudan Sovereignty Council Vice President called on the parties to reach political consensus to overcome difficulties and engage in dialogue in the country. According to Russia Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin approved the establishment of a Russian base in Sudan on November 16, 2020, capable of accommodating ships with nuclear power units.
Former International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda was appointed on Wednesday to head the UN Commission of Inquiry into alleged human rights violations by all parties to the conflict in Ethiopia. Let's take a look.
In a statement issued in Geneva, the president of the Human Rights Council, Federico Villegas of Argentina, announced the appointment of the Gambian as well as two other experts, Kari Betty Murungi, a lawyer at the High Court of Kenya, and American Stephen Ratner, a law professor who will join the newly created commission. Fatou Bensouda was the ICC's chief prosecutor from June 2012 to June 2021. The International Commission of Inquiry on Ethiopia that she will lead was established for a period of 1 year. Its mandate is renewable if necessary by a Human Rights Council resolution on December 17th. Since its outbreak in November 2020, the war, which began in Tigray, northern Ethiopia, and then spread to the neighboring regions of Amhara and Afar, has been marked by numerous allegations of abuses on both sides. Last November, a joint report by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission documented post-war crimes and crimes against humanity in the conflict. The 3 UN-appointed experts are mandated to investigate and gather evidence on human rights violations committed since November 3, 2020 by all parties to the conflict in Ethiopia. The aim is to identify to the extent possible those responsible for the violations with a possibility of prosecution.
Moving on, the Libyan parliament speak for Prime Minister has accused his rival in Tripoli of blocking ministers in waiting from traveling to Tobruk in the east of the country, seat of the assembly. Former Interior Minister Fathi Bashagha was appointed last month by the Wharton country's parliament. His administration was scheduled to be sworn in this Thursday. Reports in the Libyan media suggest that two members of the cabinet, approved by parliament on Tuesday, were detained as they headed to the east of the country. On Thursday, Bashagha's Choice for Economy and Trade announced his resignation, denouncing irregularities during last Tuesday's vote of confidence. Since 2014, Libya's parliament has been operating from Tobruk following the uprising that toppled Muammar Gaddafi. In February last year, Abdulhamid Dbeibah was appointed head of an interim government with a mandate to lead the country to elections to be held last December. The polls were postponed indefinitely amid bitter disputes over their legal grounds and the presence of divisive candidates. Dbeibah has refused to cede power except to an elected government. Away from that, the 4th of March marks 10 years since huge explosions rocked the neighborhood of Mpila in the capital of Congo, Brazzaville. The blasts at an ammunition and arms depot killed at least 282 people and wounded over 2,300. The devastation caused by the explosions led to more than 25,000 displaced. 10 years have passed, but many of the estimated 17,000 victims are still looking for suitable accommodation. In September 2013, 6 military officers were sentenced for arson and threats to internal security. Last year, the government paid compensation to around 1,000 victims. More payments have been promised for 2022. The reconstruction of the neighborhood is officially estimated to cost around 355 million euros. Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, hundreds of demonstrators took to the streets of Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, on Thursday to denounce what they describe as the abusive exploitation of the railways by French group Ballot.
The protesters demand the cancellation of the contract with Bolloré's subsidiary Star Rail and the immediate departure of the French group from the country. According to Nathalie Sawadogo, a protester who took part in the march, they want Bolloré to leave so that they can manage their train and their rail because they are tired and fed up of him. Another protester, Lassane Sawadogo, added that it was time for Bolloré to leave the Burkinabe government in peace. Works on rail line Abidjan-Kaya Tambo were due to start last September, but so far nothing has been done. Nestorine Sangare, the event organizer, said that for 27 years, the Burkinabe state was putting money in the fixing of the rails, hoping that everything will be put back in operation so that they could take over the management, and they had to work and repair, which they did not. According to the organizer of the march, Bolloré delayed the operation because the start of works on the Tama-Ouaga railway could affect the profitability of its investments. Last week, the consortium held a press conference to denounce the shortcomings of the framework negotiation agreement for the rehabilitation, construction and operation of the railway signed between Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire and the Bolloré Group.
In our health news today, the UN Environment Programme celebrated its 50th birthday at a special station in Kenya's capital on Thursday, calling for more action worldwide to overcome climate change, biodiversity loss, and rising levels of pollution and waste. On Wednesday, the UN Environment Programme passed a key resolution to start negotiating an international treaty to ban plastic pollution. Speaking at the ceremony, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta said his country would rally behind UNEP to promote conservation and sustainable development. Kenyatta said that UNEP has transformed into a formidable ecological consciousness for the world as it boldly championed the environment agenda. Also in attendance were Botswana President Magwesi Masisi and his Nigerian counterpart Muhammadu Buhari. The historic resolution to end plastic pollution was endorsed by 175 countries. It creates an intergovernmental committee to negotiate and finalize a legally binding agreement by 2024. Founded in 1972 following the landmark UN Conference on the Human Environment, UNEP was conceived to monitor the state of the environment, inform policymaking with the science, and coordinate responses to the world's environmental challenges. And finally, in our sports news today, Kampala Capital City Authority Football Club have dropped more points in the Star Times Uganda Premier League. This is after they drew 2-2 with Express FC in Kampala derby played at Beitwe Mutesa II Stadium, Wankurukuku on Thursday. We have more. Martin Kiza broke the deadlock for Express early on in the game, but his strike was cancelled out by Julius Poloto before the break. After the break, KCCA took the lead through Sadat Anako's strike, but Joseph Akwandanaho netted later on to ensure the game ended in stalemate. From arguably their first realistic attempt at goal, Express took the lead in the 18th minute with Martin Kiza carrying his free kick into the back of the net. Just before the break, KCCA went level through Julius Poloto's sport kick after he was initially fouled by Enoch Walusimbi in the forbidden area. Apart from those two efforts at goal, the opening half was short of chances as both the Kampala sides struggled. At the restart, KCCA made a double change to bring on Erisa Sechisambo and Philbert Obenchan for Usama Arafat and Rogers Mato, respectively, with hope that the introduced pair would help his team get goal. With those two changes, KCCA looked a far different side and almost went ahead in the 53rd minute, but Anako failed to find the back of the net after a nice run by Albert Achai to set him up. At almost the death of the game, Express almost won it, but Eric Kambare's effort rattled the post. 2-2 it ended, and KCCA now sit 3 points behind leaders Vipers SC after 19 games. That was the news. Thank you for always keeping it TV Africa. Please do stay tuned. More programming coming your way.